passe l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone, welcome to another Morning Club with the Handball Hour. Chris with you for this one, and today we're speaking to Mark Hawkins, the coach for the Great Britain women's national team, and Heidi Warren, one of the players on the line for them as they prepare for the first round of qualifiers for EHF EURO 2026. While this national team week on the women's side is full of friendly games for most of the big teams, the journey to the championship begins for 9 nations with 3 qualification groups. And very interesting to look at the British team at the moment, because I'm sure you'll remember back in April last year they were cast into the spotlight as they were given a wild card into the Olympic Qualification Tournaments for Paris 2024, with Cameroon dropping out at short notice. 2 days before the tournament began, Great Britain were announced as the replacement team, where they had to then go to Debrecen in Hungary and face the Hungarians, Sweden and Japan. And naturally enough, we're on the receiving end of 3 heavy defeats, but they have since then continued to strive to improve and have a great opportunity this weekend to qualify from their Phase 1 group, facing Estonia and Bosnia Herzegovina, playing on Saturday and Sunday. They've been training in Serbia all week, building up for these games. So I had a chat with Mark, who was one of our first guests on the podcast way back in 2017, you might remember, and Heidi, who at the age of 19 has already got a lot of experience with the national team. She has come through the elite player pathway that has been developed in the UK over in England, and currently playing her club handball in Denmark. So let's hear what they have to say. Joining us is Mark Hawkins and Heidi Warren from the British women's team, about to take on Estonia and Bosnia Herzegovina in the European qualifiers Phase 1 this weekend. Currently doing your preparation in neighbouring Serbia, trying to hide away a little bit, but it seems like a nice place to set yourself up, Mark, before the games this weekend.
Yeah, it's been really nice. We've got a good little setup here, sort of nice and out of the way. And, it's great just, always sort of with these national team competitions, just to get away for a few days and just have the group together and very little distractions. And yeah, nice little setup here in Serbia where we're, close to the training hall, and yeah, got all the players here on Monday night, and yeah, had a good few days training and preparation.
Good stuff. And Heidi, how's the week been for you so far?
Yeah, it's been great. It's always nice to catch up with all the girls, and you don't see them very often. And obviously going into a competition like this, it's really exciting.
Looking at the squad for this weekend, it seems like there's a lot of kind of familiar faces. You've built up the team over the last couple of years since you've taken over, Mark. But I noticed as well a lot of players from Loughborough, and I think, Heidi, you're what players come through that as well. I think that might be something quite interesting to share with our listeners.
Yeah, I joined Loughborough when I first went to the EPA, which was in 2021 to 2023. And yeah, those 2 years at EPA, I played at the club with Loughborough, and that really helped me develop. And I've met a lot of the girls through Loughborough Handball, and doing that club alongside the Elite Performance Academy was just really good, and that's what pushed me to go to travel out to Denmark and now be out there for my second year. So it was definitely a great stepping stone for me.
And it seems like that's really starting to come to fruition now. I mean, I don't think too many people would know about the EPA, this performance pathway for players in England. But Mark, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so it started, it would have been 2021, I think it was the first year. So sort of in the midst of COVID, we managed to get it set up, or England Handball did, where essentially it's a sport. Loughborough, for those that won't know, it's sort of a big sports university in the UK, and they have a kind of sixth form college, like 16 to 18-year-olds college attached to it. So, some of our players like Heidi, and there's, a few in the Hannah Saunders, who's injured, Lucy Thornwell, who else is in the first cohort? Anna Rayner in the first cohort there, that sort of started that journey in 2021. And so they get a couple of years kind of full-time training. They're training probably about 8 times a week, sort of handball wise and S&C between them. So that's really sort of sparked a lot of the success we had in the sort of under 19s, and the EHF trophy last year was sort of built around that core of players, and they're sort of coming through into the senior team now. And then on top of that, we built sort of an additional program now, as a lot of the players have graduated through that, and they're sort of staying in the area, and I get to be there 3 days a week with them now, and sort of some of the older ones. So hopefully that gives sort of an extra 3 years potentially on top of the 2 years they have there. So potentially kind of 5 years of more intense training, and to sort of bridge that gap from kind of 16 to 21, 22, which is where we were falling short a bit before.
Yeah, it sounds great, particularly that you get to spend so much time with these players as well. And Heidi, you mentioned there you're in Denmark at the moment, over in Silkeborg, is that right?
Yeah, in Silkeborg, yeah.
How did you find your way to the sport? What's your story before going into the pathway?
Yeah, well, I just found handball through a secondary school. So I was one of the kids who used to do all the different sports. I was mainly used to play football, and then one day my PE teacher put me on a handball team sheet. I had no idea what the sport was, but just went to a tournament, and actually my Somerset coach Roger Petchy picked me up and said, "Oh, you got quite a good shooting arm," and that's all. And my height, obviously, I was quite tall, and I just started playing at a Somerset level, and then soon went quite quick to Southwest the next year, and then GB was around COVID time. I got into the under 17s, but I'd say definitely my handball journey properly started when I went to the EPA in Loughborough. When I left secondary school, that's when I started learning all the positions properly, and the defence and attack properly. And then after college, I really wanted to move to Denmark and go through the ICAST pathway that they've got between England handball and ICAST, and that was great. And then obviously this year I made the decision to try again to stay out another year of under 19 in the Liga, and it's just really good. Such a great standard out there, and I really enjoy coming back to these camps and also seeing my friends and stuff. But playing in Denmark is just such a step up, and I think hopefully it's improved me quite a lot. So I'm going to keep staying out there for as long as I can, hopefully.
And I guess that having that pathway in the UK before you moved over is a great preparation as well. Like in comparison to Mark back in the days when you were all shipped out to Denmark to prepare for the Olympics, where I guess you were going from 0 to 100. At least the players now kind of get an idea of what is almost like an elite level or professional setup.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that sort of ability to train. It's great. If you were really enthusiastic about handball and you come through some of our pathways before, and then 18 you wanted to go and try, like Heidi was saying, we've had cooperations with kind of sports high schools in Aarhus or ECAST where they could go and train for a year. But if you then go from training once or twice a week to 6-7 times a week, then it's difficult for the body to cope. So part of this is also the physical development of through the S&C programs, but the ability to kind of be able to train at that intensity and that sort of quantity as well has been really, really beneficial. And as I say, on the women's side in particular, we're, as the national team program has kind of restarted almost in the last sort of 2 or 3 years, it's it's around a lot of these players in this system, and hopefully there's more keep coming through and pushing the level up over the coming years.
Almost 2 years now since you took over as the head coach, and I want to take it back to last year, because I guess when you took that job, you weren't anticipating that one of your first major events would be an Olympic qualification tournament. Now, I remember at the time, like there was so much almost shock about it from an outside perspective. Now that you've both had a bit of time to kind of separate yourselves from that and look back on it, what do you make of that whole experience?
I mean, there was quite a lot of shock on the inside as well as the outside. It was, yeah, I mean, it was a crazy situation. I mean, I think we were literally told kind of 24 hours before that there's this chance. And then, it was a real sort of credit to the players that, everyone was just within an hour, yep, let's go, let's do it. And we're all on board. I think there's always a risk with those types of things, whether it's, because I'd only had a couple of training camps for the team at that point. So whether it's too much too soon and it can sort of break the team or a little bit. But I think the one thing also linked to the sort of the EPA and these players that have come through is from a few years before when they were, 15, 16 years old in the middle of a global pandemic, took the decision to move away from home and commit themselves to handball, that we had some, really strong characters, really ambitious, driven people who weren't going to be damaged by the task. And, I think it's, again, looking back on it now, I think we learned so much. It was so valuable. I mean, of course, those games are hard to play in, and it's not, we had a team from Africa pulling out at the last minute isn't sort of a great thing for the sport, but for us it's the learning was massive, and you could see that the next camp after that, everything it took us so many steps forward that it would have taken time to take that otherwise. So I think it was a really beneficial experience, and I'm glad that we still got the majority of the squad that were there then. Like no one was put off by the challenge. And I think most of all, it gave a lot of motivation and sort of determination to get back towards that level on their own right.
Yeah, it sounds like a positive experience in that sense, that players kind of took it on the chin and said, okay, we're going to keep pushing. And Heidi, for you, what are the kind of abiding memories of that experience now that it's been almost a year?
Lots of good memories. Yeah, it was, again, such a big shock to be able to do a competition like that against players that we've all been, we all watch on the weekends in the Champions League. We watch throughout the week, and then to be told, yeah, you're going to be playing these people you've been watching since you first started handball, that was like really crazy. And I don't think I even got my head around it, probably not even now, to be honest. But yeah, such a great experience. And at the end of the tournament, even having such a big difference in our scores, like you just come out of the competition thinking, if you put in the work, we could potentially get there over a long-term plan. And that is what we're aiming for at the end of the day. Like, we are obviously at the beginning of our journey, but to be reminded that these players who are, have all this more experience than us, who are 10 years older, like that could be us if we keep really pushing to get there. So yeah, definitely a positive trip to remember.
You had that early success with the underage teams in the IHF trophies, and I guess you had already moved to Denmark at that point, so you had an idea of what is waiting at the top level. It's not like the players, despite that success, didn't quite understand what was really up there at Olympic qualification level. What did you notice was like the big difference when playing? Because particularly for yourself, you're a line player, right? So you're in amongst the defense and getting the real physical end of it constantly throughout the games. What was the kind of main things that you noticed? Okay, this is actually a little bit different at this level.
I mean, it was very different there, a lot faster, especially when we played Japan. Like their speed in their feints and all the different styles in each team. But yeah, it's definitely their speed and their strength, doing things that normally you'd be able to do against under 19 players. But when you're playing women, like just their build it's a lot harder. And obviously their experience is the main thing. They can read a lot of what we do. But every game I felt that we were improving when we were out there, just from trying to pick up on what they were doing. But yeah, it's definitely their speed and their strength is the main things, I'd say, the difference.
And then the few months after that, then really close game with Greece, pushed them all the way in a World Championship qualifier. And it's kind of that level that you're now battling away in for the first phase of these European qualifiers, Mark. Have you noticed a maturity in a different way in these young players as well? I guess not kind of taking for granted the level they played at last year, but realizing that, it's something they can manage. And this, in a way, is actually, not easier, but a more manageable level.
Totally. I think, if we go back to last April, we'd had, one of the training camps I'd had with them, we played a couple of friendlies with North Macedonia the previous November. And then it was in April, so for some of them, it was their first international match. And you play in Hungary. It's
That's
and then
incredible.
it's when you say it out loud, it sounds as mad as it is.
Yeah.
And then but it's that accumulation of experience now, sort of being in, and also playing the friendly games in North Macedonia, you get a feel for the level, and playing against national teams is its own sort of unique challenge compared to sort of club teams. But then to go into sort of the official sort of pre-match stuff, the post-match stuff, the press conferences, all these sorts of different things that go around a tournament like that and go around sort of the qualifiers that we had, is that accumulation of experience that the players now know what to expect a little bit more, and they know how to sort of deal with the traveling, deal with the sort of arriving at the event or the hotel or whatever a day before, and things like this. So this sort of stuff is definitely starting to come. But again, we've got probably, what have we got here? One player over 21, maybe, I think, and
Wow.
it's still, an incredibly young team, and it's that's the positive side of it, that we've got this sort of young core of a similar age that can hopefully grow together, but all these kind of shared experiences, and it's not just sort of one or two players that have experienced these things. Like, as a group, they've experienced the Olympic qualifiers, the IHF trophy, and sort of the qualifier. So it's that we need to continue over a sustained period now.
Yeah. And looking ahead to the weekend then, coming up against a Bosnian side who also played against Greece in the last couple of years in the last Euro qualifiers. So you have those kind of points of references, maybe Estonia a little bit less, but very much a level that I guess you believe that you belong in now. Like, how are you approaching this weekend?
To accumulate more of this experience, like you say, these are the kind of the levels we want to be in. The games with Greece and Lithuania were the first time we'd then been presented with the challenge of teams of where we've come to sort of by right. So again, we're in that same situation. I think going to play Bosnia is always very tough. It's going to be a sort of great experience and a great atmosphere there. And then Estonia, yeah, they're another team on a similar journey, sort of at a similar sort of timeline to us. So it's going to be great games that we can go into, sort of 50-50 matches that we can that we can test ourselves in, because it's great getting experience against these bigger teams, and you sort of learn to close the gap, but also you need to learn how to play in these games where it's close, and it's build that experience as well, as opposed to just being there to sort of and I think we started to build some of that against Greece, and I think we really want to kick on from there and sort of finish or start where we finished against Greece, and sort of keep up with that mentality and that sort of environment. I mean, obviously, for us, as Heidi was saying, this is a long-term project. It's not something that we're hell-bent on qualifying for the next stage now, or it's not a necessity to do that. Like, we'd love to, but we'd first of all love to put ourselves in a good situation where we can compete well in these two games and see where it leaves us.
Do you fully agree there, Heidi, or is looking ahead? I mean, it is quite a nice, I guess, incentive as well, though. I mean, you compare it to the men's side, where, for example, Great Britain, you've come through the first phase in the past, but then you're facing a whole other level in the promotion round to get into playing against the big dogs again. Whereas in this case, if you come through this group, then you're straight into the qualifiers. Even though you're also young, Heidi, is there a little bit of kind of looking ahead and thinking of, oh, wouldn't it be nice to face them again?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think I try to just go into every competition trying to be as prepared as you can, and most of all, I'm just really excited to play. I'm always excited to play with this group because I feel like every time we're playing, we are getting better. And because it's around the same level, I do think that there are opportunities to come away with some wins, especially last time against Greece, we were close, but definitely improving each game and making sure we're as prepared as possible. But it would always be nice to get to the next stage. But as Mark said, it is a long-term plan, and after losses like in the World Championship qualifiers, it's important to like remind ourselves of the bigger picture. I'm excited, and we'll see what happens, I guess.
And the pathway is kind of laid out a little bit easier for the team as well. Not easier, but clearer for the team with the expansion of the Euro to 24 teams. And you said you faced North Macedonia in those test matches, a team that got through to the Euro. They faced Turkey in that competition, who you'd also faced in the last couple of years. So, and I guess, Heidi, that there's a bunch of Faroese players who you were in school with at some point who went through the academies at the same time of you who are now playing at that level as well. So you can kind of see the light there at the end of the tunnel for a team, even if it's not in 2 years or 4 years, but at some point. And I guess that is quite inspiring as well for the team to see that, there's a proper pathway there. It's not just a dead end.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a realistic goal. I think is, like you say, the expansion of the tournament, and that obviously that's led to the expansion of the qualification round as well. So it's we're, as you said, we're at a stage where it's achievable for us to make the sort of main qualification round. So, and I think everyone's been inspired by the Faroe Islands and how, they've gone about things and how they've developed. And, it's about that sort of having that fundamental sort of basis where around sort of an academy sort of system, we can develop the right players. We've seen like the famous example is with the Netherlands, and also in recent years with Switzerland as well. These are the models that I think, suit us as a country to try and follow. And, we do have, like you say, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, there are the opportunities to be in this main qualification or be looking to try and develop. And, sort of look at 6 years down the line, the average age of this team will still be not more than 24, 25. It's still going to be a relatively young team. So, that's the task for us to keep these players together and give ourselves a chance to push on to those levels, because that's where we all aspire to be.
Thank you both so much for your time this afternoon, and enjoy your final session before you head over to Bosnia tomorrow. Looking forward to watching the games, and good luck.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Thank you to Heidi and Mark. Fascinating stuff, and it'll be great to see them in action this weekend. Great Britain taking on Bosnia Herzegovina and Estonia this weekend for a spot in the main qualifiers for EHF Euro 2026 Phase 2, where all the big teams will be waiting. You can watch those games on EHF TV, and we've got a podcast coming up with myself and Alex looking back at the final round of games in the Men's Champions League group phase. And until then, everyone, thanks for listening. Take care and goodbye.